Yep, another movie I saw when I was traveling the multiverse. In this world, the Wachowskis didn't do a Speed Racer movie. Instead, they did a Batman movie, with the same cast. They didn't have the Nolan trilogy in this world, so this was Batman's cinematic return after Batman and Robin. Matthew Fox's Batman plays the middle ground between Adam West and This Isn't an Operating Table perfectly. I strongly suspect the Wachowskis were influenced by Alfred's death in Dark Knight Returns, as this Batman struggles with time moving on and his support network growing older and outgrowing their need for him. Emile Hirsch plays a Dick Grayson who has just recently graduated to Nightwing. It's implied Alfred's last words to him inspired him to move out of Bruce's shadow. He plays the character pretty much perfectly, though his fight scenes are less acrobatic and more brute force. That's not Hirsch's fault, more a lack of communication between the Wachowskis and choreographer Ke Huy Quan. Polly Litt doesn't have a lot of screen time as Tim Drake. He's not quite Robin yet. This is pulling from the early Tim Drake appearances, who knew Bruce was Batman, but wasn't quite ready for field work. He's okay, but I wonder if he would have grown into the role after a few sequels. Same with poor Ariel Winter in her one scene as Stephanie Brown. She'd probably have killed it with this role, given more screen time, especially if she could have been paired with Litt's Tim Drake. But playing second fiddle to Susan Sarandon's Leslie Tompkins gives both characters stuff to do you normally don't see in the comics. Tompkins isn't relegated to whining about Bruce being Batman, and Spoiler isn't only here to prove herself to the Bat family. Speaking of wasted characters, John Goodman is a solid Commissioner Gordon, though it's different from the typical Gordon, who's a close ally and friend to Batman. The Wachowskis were almost certainly looking to some of the then recent Batman stuff, where Gordon was no longer Commissioner and he and Batman had a bit of a strained relationship. There was potential for some solid stuff, with Batman and Gordon both dealing with kids leaving the nest, but we don't get to see that parallel fleshed out as much as it should have been. Even one scene with them talking it out could have done wonders for this story. When I looked up the general reaction to the movie, I saw a lot of complaints about Christina Ricci as Barbara Gordon, but I thought she was fine. She should have had more scenes with her on-screen father than she did with her on-screen boyfriend, but her chemistry with Hirsch is okay. Nothing to get outraged about. And while it didn't upset me, I can see why people might have been bummed that the movie tells us she's a computer genius, but it doesn't show much of that. She's just another Bat family member who punches and kicks, but we don't get to see what differentiates her from the rest of the cast. Richard Roundtree's Lucius Fox didn't have to be in the movie, but he sells the father figure role to Bruce, and as this is a Batman who recently lost Alfred, it makes sense for him to have another surrogate father. Roger Allam plays Rupert Thorne, though he should have played Cluemaster to give Spoiler more reason to be here. Not to mention, with a Batman who's been at it a while, it's weird for the big villain to be a regular mobster. That might be okay for a rookie Batman, but it was weird for a seasoned pro. But I suspect the Wachowskis saw this more as a personal story about family and less of a superhero narrative, which, yes, they knocked it out of the park, but I still want to see more superheroics. It wasn't until I got to the post-credits scene where I realized this was part 2 in a shared cinematic universe. The previous year, Charlie Cox played a fresh out of Smallville Superman in his first week in Metropolis. Yes, he doesn't quite have the build for Superman, but he bulked up a little bit, and he nailed the acting. With Claire Danes as Lois Lane, Mark Strong as Lex Luthor, Rupert Everett as Morgan Edge, Robert De Niro as Jonathan Kent, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Martha Kent. I don't know much about that one, but it had to do okay since they put all their eggs in this shared cinematic basket. The post-credit scene for this Batman movie had Mark Strong asking Bruce Wayne for help dealing with a menace to the people of Metropolis. Maybe in one world, the Batman vs. Superman movie actually worked. That's it for today. Maybe next time I'll tell you about some other movie I watched in my multiversal travels. Until then, have a good one.